There's a kind of love that doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It whispers in the silence between two breaths. It lingers in the way you look at her when she's not watching, in the way your hand rests gently on her back as if saying, "I'm here," even when you don't ask me to be. Love, at its purest form, is not defined by the grandness of one's gestures but by the subtle, consistent rhythm of presence. To love her deeply means learning to be there in the quiet spaces, when the world isn't watching, when no applause will follow. It's not about the expensive dinners, the perfect vacations, or the dramatic declarations of affection. Those may create fleeting moments of excitement, but they rarely build the kind of connection that touches the soul. What truly moves her is when your attention becomes undivided, when your curiosity about her remains alive even after you've known her for years. It's when you look at her and still want to discover who she is becoming, not just who she was when you first met her. Presence is the language of genuine love. It's felt in the way you listen, not waiting for your turn to respond, but absorbing her words as if they are pieces of her essence. When you see her, not just her appearance but her emotions, her exhaustion, her quiet dreams, she feels acknowledged. To see her fully means you don't just notice her when she shines, but also when she falters, when her energy fades, when she withdraws. Many people crave love but fear being seen completely because being seen means being vulnerable. When you offer her your courage to truly see her, you give her permission to exist without performance. That is where emotional depth begins. This depth requires curiosity, the willingness to explore the landscapes of her inner world without assuming you already know them. Curiosity keeps love alive because it replaces judgment with wonder. When you ask questions not to interrogate but to understand, you remind her that she is worth knowing beyond the surface. The way you look into her eyes, the patience in your silence, the softness in your tone, these become more powerful than any grand promise could ever be. Love that lasts is built not on certainty but on the continuous desire to learn her language, her rhythms, her quiet signals of need and gratitude. It takes courage to love this way because it asks you to slow down, to strip away distractions, and to bring your full self into the moment. It means offering your emotional availability when it would be easier to retreat into distance. But when you do, she feels something beyond affection, she feels understood. And that understanding becomes the foundation of a connection that doesn't just excite her heart but anchors her soul. Emotional depth in love begins when a man dares to be vulnerable, when he chooses authenticity over performance. For so long, men have been conditioned to believe that strength is defined by stoicism, by the ability to suppress emotions and maintain control. But in truth, real strength is not found in hiding, it's found in revealing. When a man allows himself to be seen in his fears, his insecurities, his uncertainty, he doesn't lose power, he gains connection. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is an invitation to intimacy. It's what tells her that she is not alone in her emotions, that you, too, feel deeply and dare to show it. When you stop trying to be invincible, you give her permission to be imperfect too, and that shared humanity becomes the bridge between your hearts. When you express your feelings without fear of judgment, you open a door for trust to flourish. Women often long for emotional honesty more than perfection, for transparency more than certainty. When you admit that you are hurt, confused, or scared, you aren't diminishing your masculinity, you're enriching it. You're saying, "I trust you with the parts of me I don't show the world." That trust becomes magnetic, because it creates a sacred space where she can also let her guard down. It's in that exchange of vulnerability that real love grows roots. Pretending to be unshakable builds distance, while showing your truth builds closeness. A woman moved to tears by love is rarely reacting to romance alone, she's responding to the safety of being emotionally met. Vulnerability also creates emotional reciprocity. When you reveal yourself honestly, she feels seen in her own depth. Your courage becomes an emotional mirror, reflecting her need for openness and understanding. When you say what you truly feel, when your eyes soften instead of harden, when your touch carries both tenderness and truth, she feels that your love is real, not constructed, not performed. That authenticity resonates deeply because it is rare. Most people wear masks to protect their hearts, but those who dare to remove them find a love that transforms rather than just comforts. To be vulnerable is to say, "I am willing to risk being hurt, because connection matters more than control." It means showing your soul without demanding that she fix or validate it, simply trusting that your truth will be received with compassion. When she witnesses your emotional courage, it doesn't make her see you as less, it makes her feel safe enough to be more. In that safety, love stops being an idea and becomes an experience so raw and honest it touches her to her core. To move her to tears is not to break her but to make her feel profoundly seen and safe. Tears born of love are not signs of pain, they are the overflow of recognition, of being met at a depth few ever reach. When a woman cries because of love, it is rarely about sadness. It is about release, the release that comes from no longer needing to hold herself together, from realizing she doesn't have to hide or prove anything. When you love her in a way that allows her to rest emotionally, you give her a kind of safety that is both rare and sacred. It's the safety of being seen without the need to perform, of being accepted without conditions. This kind of love is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, patient, and grounded. It listens before it reacts, observes before it assumes. To make her feel safe is not about protecting her from the world but about showing her that with you, she can be all that she is, her strength, her softness, her contradictions. Safety is not built in words, it is built in consistency. It's when she knows that your tone will remain kind even when you're frustrated, that your presence won't disappear when she becomes emotional, that your touch remains steady when life feels uncertain. These are the small, invisible acts that build trust, the kind of trust that allows tears to fall without shame. When you see her deeply, you notice the things she doesn't say out loud. You recognize the fatigue behind her smile, the hesitation in her laughter, the stories hidden behind her silence. You learn to read her not just through words but through energy, through subtle shifts in her eyes and gestures. Seeing her fully means acknowledging her pain without trying to fix it, honoring her emotions without needing to rescue her from them. It's understanding that empathy is more powerful than solutions. When she feels this kind of understanding, something within her softens. She realizes that she no longer has to hold her emotions alone, that there is space for her heart to exhale. Love that moves her to tears is love that reminds her she is safe to be human. It reaches the part of her that has carried too much, loved too hard, and been unseen too often. When you love her in this way, she is not crying because she is broken. She is crying because, for the first time, she feels whole in your presence. Her tears are gratitude not for what you give her, but for how you make her feel when she is finally, deeply, and completely seen. Intimacy thrives in the delicate balance between mystery and honesty, in the space where revelation and restraint coexist. To love her deeply, you must understand that love is not the complete knowing of another person, but the continuous discovery of them. When you reveal yourself honestly while still allowing her to explore the parts of you that remain unspoken, you create a dance, one that keeps the connection alive and electric. Too much mystery breeds distance, too much transparency can suffocate curiosity. Real intimacy exists somewhere in between, where you are open enough to be known but still vast enough to be intriguing. A woman's heart is moved not only by how much you tell her, but by how much you let her feel through your presence, your energy, your silences. Honesty is the foundation that allows trust to grow. It's when your words align with your actions, when you say what you mean without hiding behind charm or pretense. Honesty does not mean exposing every detail of your inner world, it means showing her what is true in the moment, your emotions, your fears, your affection, without manipulation or performance. It's when you share from authenticity, not obligation. A woman feels when honesty is present because it allows her to relax into the relationship, to know that what she sees is real. That realness is what allows her to let down her defenses. But mystery has its place too. It's what keeps desire alive, what gives love its breath and rhythm. Mystery is not secrecy, it's the awareness that even in deep connection, each person remains an evolving universe. When you allow her the space to explore you over time, to uncover your depths gradually, you invite her into a journey rather than a destination. Love becomes something dynamic, not static, something that continues to unfold rather than something that has already been figured out. When you hold both honesty and mystery, you create emotional contrast, the kind that makes her heart feel both safe and alive. She feels your truth, yet she's drawn to your depth. She trusts your openness, yet she's intrigued by the quiet corners of your soul. It's this interplay that awakens longing, that keeps love from turning into complacency. Intimacy, after all, is not about knowing everything about someone, it's about never losing the desire to keep discovering them. When she feels that with you, her emotions rise to meet that energy because it's the kind of love that makes her feel seen, desired, and endlessly curious all at once. The deepest love is not about ownership, it's about awakening. To love her deeply is not to claim her, but to create a space where both of you can expand beyond who you were before you met. Love that awakens is love that liberates. It doesn't ask her to fit into your idea of who she should be, it celebrates her becoming. It encourages her growth, her curiosity, her evolution, even when that growth challenges your comfort. This kind of love is not possessive or controlling, it is rooted in respect and awe for her individuality. It understands that love is not a cage, but a current that allows both souls to flow freely while remaining deeply connected. When love becomes ownership, it begins to shrink. It starts to suffocate the very thing it was meant to nurture. Possessiveness disguises itself as care, but it is fear in another form: fear of loss, fear of change, fear of not being enough. When you release that fear and choose to love from freedom instead of control, you allow her to feel safe not because she is trapped, but because she is trusted. And trust is the oxygen of deep love. To love her in a way that moves her to tears is to show her that your commitment is not conditional on her obedience, but on her authenticity. She doesn't have to dim her light to keep your affection, she can shine, fully, and still be loved. Awakening love also means that you, too, evolve within it. It challenges you to face your insecurities, to shed the need to dominate, and to grow in emotional maturity. When you love without possession, you discover the deeper meaning of intimacy, a meeting of two whole beings, not two halves trying to complete each other. You start to realize that your role is not to define her path, but to walk beside her, to support her dreams, to admire her strength without trying to own it. This creates a dynamic of mutual respect, where both of you can inspire one another to rise. Such love moves her to tears because it allows her to breathe. It's the kind of love that says, "You are free, and I choose you still." It holds her with open hands, not clenched fists. It watches her evolve and finds beauty in her becoming. When she feels that freedom within your love, her soul relaxes. She doesn't feel confined, she feels awakened. And in that awakening, she realizes that love, at its highest form, isn't about losing oneself in another, but finding the courage to grow together while remaining beautifully, powerfully, whole.